There are people in our industry who don't just run great MSPs, they help define where the entire industry is headed. And today's guest, Corey Kirkendoll, is one of them. Corey isn't just a CEO of 5K Technical Services, a successful MSP based in Plano, Texas. He's also been a key voice on national committees, channel advisory councils, and vendor boards across the industry. He's someone who understands the power of community, representation, and really helping MSPs move from firefighting to future focused. So, in this episode, we're talking about what it takes to scale an MSP with intention, how to shift your mindset from technical leader to strategic executive, and why getting involved in industry initiatives isn't just good for the channel, it's good for your business too. So, let's get started. Corey, welcome to the MSP Growth Podcast. And I've followed your work for years, especially your involvement in committees and advocacy work in our industry. So I want to start off with a question with all that you've done. When you think about all those hats, CEO, board member, committee leader, which one has taught you the most about being a better MSP owner?
You know what, Heather, thanks for having me. It's really the volunteerism, right? I think that if you can lead a group of volunteers that you don't pay and you just need them to get on board, I think you can lead a company of people you do pay a lot easier, right? From that perspective. And it has taught me a lot through my career back when I started at Cisco and IBM and all over. I always knew that one of the places to do was to be sit on boards and really understand different places. But I do think that having and being around volunteers, leading volunteers, guiding volunteers has truly made me a better leader when it comes to running my company.
That's great. That's great. And really inspirational because it's not something that people run to do, but they should be because it just helps them in all different areas. So
No
that's super
doubt.
insight. You spent years in leadership at some of the biggest names in tech, Cisco, Linksys, before starting 5K.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to take that leap and build your own MSP?
I think I fell asleep, woke up, and I'm still in a dream. But I think the biggest thing for me was I always knew that I wasn't going to be in corporate America. I started out at Cisco and IBM way back in the early 90s. Man, I'm telling my age now. I can't believe I'll be 53 this year. And as we go down this path, every year I was there when the tech bubble was big and everything was good. Life was good. Splitting stock at Cisco. It was amazing until the bubble burst, right? And then it was like, man, this is crazy. It was a grind. And then there was no loyalty to how long you've been there, where it was. You never could come up at any time and be on the layoff pool, right? It says, hey, here's what it looks like. But through my volunteerism and out there in the community, I noticed that there was a gap. There was a gap of bringing quality services and IT to small, medium businesses while I was out there. So when I was at Cisco, I went through and got my MBA, right? When I went through that process, I actually had to write a project about a company. And so I just happened to write about an IT services company. Wasn't an MSP because I didn't know what that was. It was just like, hey, here's what it was. But then I was in MBA school. So I had some of the most brilliant business minds. And when they read it, they all pulled me back. Hey, you've actually got something here. This is actually really good. And I'm
Wow.
like, and I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you could probably do this and make money. And this is actually really good. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, just give me my grades so I can keep it moving. Because I was a director at Cisco, having fun, doing my thing, and having a great time. And so then I volunteer at my local church. And people know when you volunteer at church as an IT, it becomes almost like a full-time job. And
Right.
so I told them, look, you guys got to go find somebody to support your IT. And I'll help you write an RFP because you guys are a business. You have to be up and running 8 to 5, and volunteers only come either on their lunch breaks or after 5 o'clock. That means that the church or whoever is down all day until that person can get to them, right?
Mm.
So I wrote the RFP and I turned it in. And then the business director looked at me and said, you're missing something. I was like, what? He said, you didn't apply. You didn't do it. I was like, I wrote it. I don't want to do it. And so, no, you have to apply. We want you to apply. And I was like, okay, fine. So then I created it and I said, okay, I'll apply. I just threw something out there. It's like, yeah, whatever. I'll put it out there. And then lo and behold, I won. Obviously, it's like I won it. And I had one customer. I was like, man, crap, I got a customer. Using the business plan that I created is like, oh my goodness. And I tried to kill that as much as I could and stop. And they wouldn't let me stop. Still my customer to the day. But it showed me. So I was working a full-time job. I had an MSP with an IT services company with one employee supporting this customer. while I was still working. I was like, okay, here's what's going on. And then all of a sudden, one turned to two, two turned to three, three turned to four. And it was like, uh-oh, what do I do? So after a while, I did that for a few years. And I was like, you know what? I can't serve two masters. I got to figure out which where I wanted to go. So I decided to exit out. But I made a conscious decision. I was like, man, I've put in all these years in this company. I walked up to my manager and said, hey, if another round of layoffs come up, put me on the list.
Oh, wow.
He was like, what? I was like, put me on the list, boss. I'm going out. And so when HR called me, it was like, hey, we're doing some cuts. And I was like, woohoo. They were like, excuse me. I was like, no, I'm sorry. I was like, oh, okay, I understand. Yes. But I left and I've been focusing on a business full time, and it just took off from there. One of the best decisions, stressful decisions, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
That is so inspiring. That is so inspiring. I love that story. And Corey, you're really passionate about helping business leaders really see IT as a strategic asset, not just as a function. And you really practice what you preach. So when you're making decisions at 5K, what's your approach to aligning tech services with business outcomes?
Yeah, see, one of the pluses of working for a big company, I learned different things like ITIL and foundations and agile and all these processes that most small businesses don't understand. And so when the ITIL process came in, it really taught me that it is IT that supports the business, not the business that supports IT. Can't be the tail wagging the dog. So when I go in there, what it taught me was if you don't understand from a business perspective of where the business is going and where its trajectory is, all you're going to do is become this baggage, which is IT, that drags or holds it down. They don't understand why you're there. Because what we do is not tangible. I can't see it. It's not like a truck or something outside. It's not like a refrigerator in the back or can't see it. They know something's happening, but they really can't see it. And so what would happen is I would go in there and I would sit down and say, where are we as a business going? And where is my customer as a business going? And then let me lay the IT foundation down to help them get to that point, right? So I can show them that we're helping them in that forward momentum. It's integral to our part that if we come in and have a conversation with a customer and we want to talk about business, we talk about where you are today, who's your customer, where are you growing, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Are you looking to hire? Are you looking to do those things? And they're like, this is not an IT conversation. I said, yes, it is, because we're going to have to enable you to do these things. And we want to be prepared, because if we don't help you set a budget for this or help you go down this path, it's going to always have a zero line item in our area. And so at that point, if it's a zero line item, the answer most likely will be no, right? Then we can't grow with you. Then we look like we're holding you back. We look like we don't know what's going on. I said, even if you put $1 or $5 in there, it's better than zero, because if you don't do that, we're always begging. We lose. And you look at us and says, hey, I'm paying you or I'm doing something with you. And every time I come to you, you're not moving me forward. I said, I can't do anything with a $0 budget. I can't do anything without knowing. And that's one of the things we end up doing. And then we really spend the time and said, if you treat us like the guys down the street, this relationship will fail. We have to be involved in what you're doing, not to change it, but we need to be aware that you're hiring 3 people. You're looking at acquiring another firm. You're looking at doing these things, because what we can do is we can prepare for that to, one, let you know that, hey, if there's some cost that you haven't seen that you may be getting into, hey, can we make sure that your current infrastructure can support that? Do you have the tools and things that you want? Are you doubling up on resources? We are a key tool, so you have to leverage this and you have to use this. And so that's what I've learned from big corporate America, is say, hey, we need to have these business level discussions, not technical, business level discussions, because that will drive whatever IT strategy we put in place.
And I saw that firsthand before I came into this IT world. I was working in nonprofit, and in the school I was at was looking to do Zoom classrooms and doing a lot more online. And we did have an MSP at the time, but they weren't having those conversations. So they didn't even know that was on the table. And it wasn't until we switched MSPs and they asked during the interviewing process of which MSP we went with, one of them said, what projects do you have on the horizon? And after multiple questioning, we didn't really see that they would have been involved with us going into an online classroom because we didn't know that aspect of it. But they got us thinking about more questions about
Mhm.
bandwidth and what if the camera goes down and we have classes happening that we're charging for. We ended up hiring them as an MSP, and we had tons of grants to do this. So that MSP really, by asking those questions and becoming a strategic partner in what the business goals, they're still there and they're still working with them. So important to do that.
Very important. Very important.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, you're a very visible leader across tons of communities, and you talked about why your community involvement's really important to you as a business leader. So, how can you say other MSPs can get involved in this kind of work without burning out at the same time?
Yeah, I think that and when you start working with small, medium businesses, it's a community, it's a family, right? So they want to see you in the community, doing things in the community, right? I can sit there and say, hey, I'm an advocate for the community, but nobody knows who I am. Okay, how does that work? You got to act like you're running for public office, but not running the whole public office. But you got to be visible and you got to be there where they are. Be at the local chambers, be at the volunteer events, be at the 5K runs, be in those things because they want to see you. They want to see that face. They want to do business and know that you are a person. They want to get to know you. And what's key is one of the things I think changed my life was when I was at Cisco. I was on an expatriate, and I was in Australia for 3.5 years. It really taught me the business of relationship first, right? When they say we want to be your mate and we want to be friends and all that good stuff, that is 100% true. When I first got there, I was all about make a decision, let's go. And they
Yeah.
said, no, we want to get to know you. We want to know who we're doing business with. We want you to know our families. We want to know those things. And it changed my viewpoint. It says, it's not about me selling you what I have. It's about truly building a relationship and a friendship so that we know how to go down that path. And I think that's the same thing is we have to get back in the community. We have to go to places and build relationships, true relationships in order to grow. And I think once you do that, it's going to be a natural progression. And things are going to just start happening naturally that you don't really have to push or engage. They say, hey, I know a guy that knows a guy, and this guy is a trustworthy guy. This is who you want to be talking to because I know him. I've seen him. He's been in the trenches and he's doing his thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. And traveling and doing businesses and as an expat in other locations does give a lot of insight into that. Us being in Europe and the Netherlands, same thing. Every decision's relational. You're at a cafe having coffee and making business deals because
Yeah.
that is the most important part, not the numbers. It's
No, it's not.
really that relationship. And I do feel in the MSP community that's also very similar. It's people want to, just as you're saying, getting out there, being showing that you're trustworthy and that you care about other things. Because how can you care about their business unless you're showing that you care generally? Uh,
100%.
it's
Yeah.
really great.
Yeah, you got to get out there and show them that you're ready to pull up your sleeves and do it. Because if you're willing to work and have a relationship without business, they look at it and say, man, if I actually do business with this guy, our relationship would only get stronger.
Yes.
And so that's where you really have to look at it. When people say, hey, I don't go to chamber meetings and I don't do things, and I say, great. I say, because you're looking for the chamber in that meeting in that hour that you're going to grab some business. And the chances of that is very small. The business happens afterwards when you're having coffee, when you're at the restaurant, when you're breaking bread with somebody, when you're able to sit down and really drill down. That's when the business happens. And it may not happen today, but you got to
Mhm.
plant that seed and continue to water it and nurture it and grow. And that's how it looks at it. And eventually, I've had customers that I pitched 3 years ago, and they'll pop up and they're like, "Hey, we're ready." I'm like, "Cool, all right, great," and I keep up with them to let them know what's going on. And that's the key piece. It's about that relationship.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. So this section is a quick answers, helpful, but also just to tell us a little bit more about you. Do you have a channel trend right now that excites you?
Channel trend AI. Obviously, with every the buzzwords out there, I think that's the place that excites me big time. I probably spend more time and not getting sleep playing with the tools and learning than
Yeah,
anything. So it definitely excites me.
that's great. What's one channel trend that needs to go?
Man, I think there's not needs to go, but it needs to be refocused, which is cybersecurity and those things. I think there's so many FUD and fear out there that people are scared, not really moving forward. I think we need to find a different approach to it and actually bring it back because it's still very relevant. And I believe that AI is the tool or that nugget that will make that happen.
Interesting. How about a favorite leadership book or podcast?
Yeah, and when I go out and I mentor a lot, actually, I'm a adjunct professor at Jarvis Christian College on cybersecurity. And one of the things I always tell my mentees is there's a book, it's called Who's Got Your Back by Keith Ferrazzi. And it is that you want to have somebody wearing your t-shirt in the meetings that you can't be in, right? Back to that relationship. If you're not having that conversation and having those things, you need to somebody. And I was an advocate in corporate America that everybody at that table should have a Corey Kirkendoll t-shirt on, so when they're asking, hey, we're starting this project and we need a leader to go do something, and they're looking around the table and they just see my t-shirt on, hey, it's pretty subliminal messaging. It works. And so that's what happened. And that's what it's about. You got to figure out how to have those relationships and have those conversations so they bring you into the conversations that you don't have access to. It's a different way of looking at it. That's one of my favorite books.
That's great. I'm going to get that one. I'm always up for a good book. So, Corey, you've spent a career building things, teams, companies, communities. What's the legacy you're hoping to leave in this industry?
Man, people ask me, why do I do it? I say, when I grew up in the inner city of Oklahoma City with single mom with two boys, it's nothing but the grace of God that I sit here and have this conversation, because this was not my path. My path was probably something very different. And so I didn't have a Corey Kirkendoll when I was growing up. I didn't have anybody to look up to. I didn't have that person. So I pledged to all of them and said, I want to be the Corey Kirkendoll to as many other Corys as I possibly can. And so the legacy is that, hey, reach back, give back, and enable others to come down the path and do the things. Don't be selfish with your successes. Give it back and allow others to grow and prosper as well.
Yeah, Corey, that's really inspiring. Thank you. And thank you for being here today. And that's it for this episode of the MSP Growth Podcast. Corey's journey is really a reminder that your business can be your platform and your leadership can make waves far beyond your client base. And if you're an MSP trying to figure out what's next, how to grow with intention, structure your services more strategically, or take yourself from operator to a true CEO, check out the Gozynta Growth Program. We're here to help MSPs like you build, scale, and lead. Until next time, keep growing, keep showing up, and keep leading from wherever you are.